Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn. And this is the borrow pit. It really hasn't changed too much since we were here last, I don't think. Last video I did, I believe, the last one was just moving that topsoil pile, so all that's stripped off, so that's where I'm going to start taking material now. I have resupplied my inventory of tricky blue rock. Put a little bit in the bucket, didn't get it as full as I wanted to, but that's the way it goes. So this is 2 triaxle loads. It works out, I think it's 42 US tons, imperial tons. Cost is probably around $700. Excavator's warming up. So the objective of this video is to complete that loop road that I started and had so many problems with getting stuck. I did half of it. Now I'm going to do the other half. The loop road that I'm referring to is this sort of loop right here. So what we did last time, let me just change colors. The last video I did here basically was from this intersection to about right here where the corduroy road ends. So this section of the road is done. So this video is going to concentrate on starting at this intersection and basically meet up with this one right here. So I am going to use some of this rock for that, but we're actually going to start off because it's dry and I'm out here sort of in the field. I have 2 areas, 2 roads that go through the pasture that I want to put some rock in while it's nice and dry. I can hopefully easily spread it before I bring the dozer into the woods for that loop road. So a couple, so we'll call it an appetizer. Just freshening up a couple roads where I used to access from the field into the woods. So this is one of 2 main access roads that I have, basically to go from, our backyard, our house, back to the woods all times of year for all different reasons, with equipment, snowshoeing, just for a walk in the summertime, whatever. There's another one next to that tree over there that we'll get to next. And this is generally good until, for whatever reason, right here, it just sort of drops. I think that's an old stump. But this here is probably 8 or 10 inches lower than over here. For whatever reason, it's only this track, and it's not so much here. A little bit here. So I have my tailgate set, so hopefully I can sort of control the amount of material, because I don't want any more needed than just really to cover that rut, maybe a little bit more, because I'm sure it'll squish in. It came out fast. I'll just blame that on. I think this is the first time I've spread rock like this. Next section that we do, I will tighten up the tailgate 1 link. I will try to talk over my tractor doing its regen thing, sitting there at a high, I don't know, almost full throttle, to get the temperature where it needs to be for it. That's really good for the environment. So we were just right there. Now we're over here. But it's the same sort of thing as far as sort of like an abrupt change. But here it's into the field. I've gone through here many times, almost up to my axles in mud. And I hit this spot here and I just come up. So I'm not sure what it is here. But from here, probably about the same distance as the other one. It's really soft. So I did load my trailer a bit more. I sort of mowed this 2 swaths wide, but I really only need this one right here. So same thing, we'll see how it works out. Yeah, I like that setting on the tailgate for the chains much better. Seems though I could control it a little bit better. I could probably even go another link and be able to slow down or spread it out a bit more thin. Well, I think that's all I needed here. Filled in this ditch. I'm sure there's a little bit of wasted stuff, but if for some reason this mixes in, squishes up, then probably what I would do next, probably not this year, but put fabric down here and then just put my fill dirt in. But I did have good luck with this type of rock before in some of these ruts here that created. Maybe it was just after I got my tractor, maybe it was with my older bulldozer, I can't remember, but it seemed to hold up well without mixing in much. Like I said before, these roads don't get a lot of use when it's muddy as far as equipment goes, mostly in the winter with equipment, and then just foot traffic in the summertime, which is why I want this a bit more passable. Yeah, what I might need to do here, because right now it's hard to walk on these rocks, is maybe skim coat this with something else. Maybe some of that fill dirt, because I'm not looking for drainage necessarily here, really just looking for stability. Here we are. This is the other end of that loop road. So I can access the section that we need to do by either end. The other way would be where we worked a couple videos ago, and I'm still concerned that I'm going to cause some ruts because it just hasn't had time to firm up yet. But I can go over it empty downhill, particularly, no big deal. So I'm loaded up there now. The dozer's in hot standby. Hopefully, just to be needed for spreading and not for rescuing. So this corner here, I added quite a bit of fill. I did a little bit of work here and on the other side of the dozer without including you guys. But the first section here is probably, well, there's several bad places. This is one of them. So there's ledge there, so I can't cut that down there anymore, and it drops off quite a bit here. The pink ribbon is where I had planned to put additional corduroy road, but I just learned that is too time intensive, at least for my liking. Here's the other one. So basically from here to there is quite a bit of a low spot. So there's going to be a lot of material that I'm going to put just in this section here, from basically where the end of that new dirt is up to this yellow birch tree. There's a section here that's not too bad. You can probably see a couple more pink ribbons. That's another bad section. And then the worst of it is up that hill, which actually was the start of this whole project. When I went up that hill, I got mired. I emptied the trailer, and I still couldn't get myself out, so I needed a rescue mission there with the bulldozer. So here, there's no real sense in tailgate spreading quite yet, because this is deep enough where I'm just gonna dump it out. Hopefully I can back over that and then dump a couple more loads here before I have to get the dozer out and spread it. But that corner there is in good shape now, so I should be able to make the turn and just back up. So that should give a good idea of about how high I need to come up. It's probably, I'd say 2 feet, 20 inches, something like that. So I got a late start on this particular project today. The dozer was warm from spreading out those 2 sections of stone, and so I just figured I'd spread this out and then be done for the day, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Boy, I'm getting lucky, I guess. I think this is load 6 or 7 without having to break open the bulldozer, either to spread it because I'm able to ride over the previous load, or more importantly, to push myself out because I'm stuck. So yeah, there's the bulldozer down there. I have all this. I am almost to a point where I want to put some rock, and when we get there I'll explain my rationale for that. But for now, I think there are a couple spots that I want additional loads, like right there. It's a bit low. And they right where the tripod is, maybe too, because I have this ledge right here that I want to get over. So I'll spread those, and then we'll come back when it's time to spread this section out, and then work on the crushed rock up there by the front of the tractor. So we've ended there for now. We'll come back here in a second. I bladed this off and I back dragged it. There's still some fine tuning to do. Probably what I'll do is just run over it, in the course of doing this work several times. We'll develop some low spots. The tire tracks will cause little ruts. And I'll blade it over again, and then, fill in areas like this. So there may be some areas, because this is a little bit of a slope, so there's some runoff, where that may collect here, may collect puddles, some larger areas down there. If that's the case, then I'll come back here next year, just make a little trench and put like a 6-inch pipe in. Because there's no significant flow here, it's just going to be surface runoff. And we'll just see how it is. It could be that I don't need to do anything, just let it run off the road as needed. So for this area here, this is actually several years ago was my first attempt to do something. Perhaps you can make out right there that different color. That was some gravel. I think probably might have been just bank run gravel, like 3 inches what I've used here before. 3-inch screen gravel. I did put fabric down here, so I think there is fabric underneath here. But this was a significant wet spot, and you can see here, even though we're in sort of a, I guess, mild drought is what the Weather Service says. This is still very moist, very wet. In fact, I think a day or two ago there might have been a puddle there. So I think that there might be some groundwater. We do have the runoff here, but I think a lot of it must concentrate itself here in this area. So where this material stops here, perhaps up to that rock right there, I'm going to put that 2 to 6 inch, 2 to 8 inch crushed rock for a couple reasons. One is I know this is soft here to provide some stability, and also hopefully I can avoid putting a culvert in here, knowing that there's likely to be some runoff here, so that the water can just run through that rock. So depending on how that looks, I may do 1 load, I may do 2 loads, and this sort of begins the steepest part of this little loop. This is pretty steep right here. You can see the traction digging up the roots as I drive over them. Several years ago, there were really just some holes, some low spots that I just sort of put in by hand. I think this is gabion, so this would be like a 4 to 8 inch crushed rock. And when I tried to do that This is 2 years ago, I think, when I got my tractor stuck fairly well there. I couldn't even get out with an empty trailer. I had to push myself with a dozer, or pull myself, I can't remember. Basically right there where the road sort of disappears around the corner. I had planned to put this fabric here and put some more material down, but it was really too soupy even for that. But with the dryness we've had this summer, it's allowed me to do a lot of work. This is probably one of the primary areas that I was hoping to get done. So my plan is to put as much crushed rock here as deems necessary. Oh, here's some fabric hiding under there. As necessary, I'll put fabric over that. So that'll make sure that the rock stays clean, the voids stay intact, and they're not filling in the voids with the material on top. Put that fabric on top of the crushed rock, and then put that fill dirt over to get the grade that I want, so that the road is at least as high as the surrounding areas. I'm going to have to look at that latch. I've noticed the last several loads that I don't think the latch is coming undone until there's a lot of weight on the tailgate to release it. So there is an adjustment on that, so it may be just a matter of adjusting it, but I'm not sure why it would change over time. Alright, well, I'll spread this a little bit out. I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker here and extend it probably to that red spruce right there. And then from there on out, the ground is a little bit better. It just needs evening out rather than the stability of this and the drainage. Once we get past that tree, it's not quite as steep where the tractor and trailer are sitting now. Well, I think it looks really nice, but didn't quite make it to my destination, which is there. And there's quite a bit of grade here that I want to fill into the rock. So another load, I think we'll do it, bring it up to this tree, and then from there on out. There's one other spot up there I need to do for the similar reason here, but it's not nearly as big. But most of the rest of this is just going to be fill dirt, not crushed rock. So that'll do it for today. We are supposed to get a little bit of rain here in the next day or so. Not sure what it'll do to things. If it's like the others, it'll just be maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch of rain. So probably quickly absorbed with this dry ground. So hopefully after a day or so of it drying out, I can get back at it without any problems. We got about 1/4 of an inch of rain since we were last here. It's been several days. I think it's been maybe 48 hours or so since the actual last of the rain or sprinkles or showers stopped. It's been dry here. We need a lot more than that. But that's where we left off. I want to put one more load here. This is sort of that tree that I had mentioned that I want to get the rock up to. That's when the grade and the wetness seem to subside. There's a significant grade here, but it's relatively firm ground. So what I did, I came through with an empty trailer through this way that we just did, and it seemed a little bit soupy. It was, I thought with a full load that I would have problems. So when I went down the other side empty, and we're almost at the meeting point of the last video where I got myself stuck so many times coming up the other way. So I came up loaded on that the section of road we finished this last video with the first video of this section of road, this road loop, and that actually had firmed up quite nicely. I didn't really notice any trouble spots, even though it was damp, sort of wet on the surface. We didn't sink in much. This is that last section of Corduroy Road. Yeah, I mean the trailer tires sunk in a little bit, but basically on the surface I didn't spin much. Now I don't know if I keep coming up that road over and over again. You know, it might sort of work that clay into sort of Play-Doh again. So there's really just one area I want to dump this rock before we get to that section near the tree, which is right in front of the tractor. Just this low spot here. See the two ribbons I had, which was the start and stop of a section of Corduroy Road that I was going to put in. You can see the rails I have there, and they're sort of buried. It'd be nice to have probably 2 loads here. I'm not sure I have enough rock, and I don't need to get any more to do what I need to do here. So I'm going to dump this load here, see what it does, and then dump the load there by that tree, which is sort of right there. And we'll go from there. If I have some extra, I may put some here. We'll just see what it looks like when I'm done. And I did fix my tailgate latch, so I did make some adjustments to this. I actually ended up grinding just a little bit off the edge, or the tip, the nip, the end, whatever. The tip of that little thing there, and that seemed to help. It operates like it should now. It sort of guarantees that it opens when I release it. It doesn't sort of catch on this and then only release when there's enough weight on the tailgate. Well, the third time was certainly not a charm in this case. So you can see here, the top is slick, which I think is part of my problem because I lose traction. But it is starting to sink in some areas real soft. This was the initial part. Part of this had set for probably almost 8 weeks now, and then I topped it off. And then did the rest of the road. That was the last video. But up here it just got too mushy. So I was bringing fill dirt. I just ended up dumping it here. You can tell the difference between the wet dirt here on the ground and the dry stuff that I just delivered. So I guess I'll get the dozer out. I'll spread the rock that I have delivered up there. Spread this as thin as I can, because I'm sure with this dry material my traction will be a lot better. You know, filling little divots. If I need to put another load or two up here, I think it would just be on this section, basically from about where we are, maybe down there, just beyond that white birch. So you can see here, hopefully, that the ground is firm enough. I mean, there are some spots there, it might sink in a couple inches. But it's just the top is so slick with that little bit of rain we got, and this being real slippery clay. Not a good combination for traction. And then here again is that section of the corduroy road. Sunk in a little bit on the edge there to the right. But overall, this is easily passable. Plus, we're not going up much of a grade here either. So this little section here where I dumped this load, I think there's more fill there than I need, so I'm going to be able to start pushing that onto the fabric. So this fabric, you notice the holes here, I had used for a long time, maybe 10 years, in my garden. The holes there where the squash and pumpkin plants grew up. Obviously suppressed the weeds everywhere else. It worked well. But it's just time for a new one. I changed the orientation of my garden a bit, so just sort of repurposed this in the woods. This is I think it's the narrowest road fabric you can buy, which is 12.5 feet. But right here, there's really no reason for me to have that full width. So I folded about 18 inches in on each side, so it's probably about 9 feet wide. Oftentimes in the woods, muddy areas, I'll use the full length because when it fills in the ruts, it does one of these things. But since the rock is already filled in the ruts, this is going to stay pretty flat and it's not going to, suck in from the edges very much. As it turned out, I think this is about 50 feet long. It turned out to be just the right amount, perfect amount of fabric. That was not by design, that was by God's grace, I guess. I think the other section of road fabric is the same, but I'm going to need more than 50 feet for that section in front of the tractor. So what I'll do here is I'll spread this where I need to. I'll get as much fill in that little section there between the end of where we finished the last video to right here, and then whatever I have left over I'll spread as thin as I can on here so I can ride as much on the dirt as possible rather than on the fabric, just to prevent it from bunching up or ripping or disorienting itself. Because in four-wheel drive, I think of it, I'll put it in two-wheel drive after I sort of crest over the hill here. Because in four-wheel drive, the front wheels turn just a little bit faster than the back wheels, so the front wheels will spin a bit and then bunch it up if I don't take it out of four-wheel drive. Here I'm just putting some rocks on the leading edge, so there's no chance of dirt getting underneath and sort of rolling up the fabric. If it did happen, it probably wouldn't be for very long, but just to prevent the possibility. The other reason I decided to fold it back, it may or may not make any difference in the end, but I didn't want any extra fabric to sort of inhibit water flow through the crushed rock. Because if you recall, the purpose of me putting crushed rock here, one is for stability, but this is a wet area. It's a natural drain from the little bit of runoff that might come this way down the hill over there. So I'd like the water to just sort of go relatively uninhibited through the rocks like it normally would, and not have to worry about damming it up because the fabric is in the way. So a lot of that grass and a bit of, I guess, sod, not really topsoil, mostly just the roots, came from some high spots here. So I really just used the fill here to fill in the low spots. I wasn't looking to raise the road much because it's higher than that side over there. That's why I sort of dug here, just to make sure that if there's water here, then it has a place to run off that way. It does there. So here it may run into the road. Hopefully it'll go down that way and then go underneath the rocks. But if it doesn't, it turns out to be a problem, I'll just fix it. You can see here, I'm not sure what sort of material this is. It sort of breaks up easy. It's maybe like soapstone. It's kind of slippery a little bit. But the blade caught here and it wasn't going to move, so it's not that weak and brittle. Alright, so we're in good shape now. I'll just continue on. Same sort of thing between here and the next spot of rock. There are some low spots. I don't plan to put more rock, just to fill dirt. I don't believe there's much in the way of water that sheds that way. If I do bring it up enough, hopefully it'll just go down that way, which is also downhill. But again, there's ledge here, so I'm limited to how much, how deep I can go. If I needed to put a pipe or something, it'd have to be down there. But I'll figure that out after we get some rain, when I build the road up. If I've created any puddles or dams, then I'll just deal with it at that time. So dumping going downhill is a bit of a challenge. One, because the stuff doesn't come out as easily. And as you can see here, I did take it out of four-wheel drive. Granted, I only had that little bit of fabric. Probably wouldn't have caused an issue. But without the front wheels helping to brake, you can see basically from, well, at least in where that fill is, all the way down here, I was just being pushed downhill by the trailer. It was pretty slow. It wasn't that bad, but that can be scary. Being pushed downhill by a trailer. At least I knew it was emptying, so the trailer was getting lighter and lighter. So the other thing here, I'm not sure I mentioned it before, but there's some dips, obviously, and some ruts. But the biggest thing here is the tilt, the angle. So right there is about level, so you can see how much of an angle there is there. Again, I'm limited by the ledge. Not quite as bad down here. The worst of it's basically right where we're standing, and right here in this little dip it's a dip in a couple different directions. Looks like I caught the edge of the fabric there with a blade a little bit, but that's just at the very end. I don't know if you could make it out. It might have been blocked by that tree there right in front of us. But towards the end there, before it all dumped out, I jackknifed my tractor. Not dangerously so, because it has, you know, leveled out down there where it happened. It's like a pontoon plane. But you can see some evidence of it here. The trailer went that way. The back of my tractor went that way. Hopefully it showed up on film. So I think probably one load would probably do it, although 2 loads would be ideal to finish this off before we get to the rock over there. But as I've driven through this road, well, empty except for the bucket, I just have not quite a full bucket full in front of rock, just for some ballast to help with the traction when 4-wheel drive. This road is actually packed down well, so I may chance it and come through here with a load so I can dump uphill rather than downhill. But, you know, dumping downhill will be better now because I've got some, you know, dry material here to give me a little bit better traction. As well as the angle won't be steep because some of the low areas have been filled in. But I think, I don't know if I have to look at the video, but I'm guessing when it was dumped, the back of the trailer was almost skidding on the ground. It looked like it might have been scraping awful close to the ground in one point up there. Well, that's not where I thought I was going to have problems. I guess it does get a little bit steeper there compared to where the tractor's sitting now. It complicates things only because I've got to put the fabric down still. Yeah, so what I'm going to end up doing, I'll probably put the fabric down here. You know, start at basically the front of the tires, sort of jumble it up there next to the tractor tires there. Just dump it in a load there and have to push it, spread the fabric out, and then push it with a dozer. Alright, to finish this off I need another 22 feet of fabric, so I'll go back to the house, cut that, and bring out another load. I think I'll put the fabric up there and then dump coming downhill again. I did spread that out a little bit, so it should be a little bit better than it was before. Hopefully the grade's not quite as steep where I need to dump, and I'll have better success with it coming out. The last time there, I forgot to open the tailgate. That can cause problems too if you're on uneven ground. Thankfully, in that case, it was pretty flat, so it was just a bonehead move. It wasn't dangerous. Well, the fabric is covered, and I think that'll be good for now. I mean, some places it's rather thin, but I'll let it settle down. But it's a lot better than it was. It should be passable now, probably most times of the year. So a couple more loads up here. I will sort of finish filling this in. There's a big dip right in front of the bulldozer. It's still quite a slope coming towards us, so I want to flatten that out a little bit. But the end is near. I'm hopeful. Well, I was hoping that might be the last load, but no. This is still too much of a hump here compared to what I want. Obviously, it is a lot better than it was before, and if that was the end of the day, then that would be fine. But right here is ledge. That's sort of the determining factor. Otherwise, I could take this little hump and just shave it down, and it'd be fine, good to go. But looking good. Haven't really had any issues riding around this loop, either full or empty. So this one last load should do the trick. Well, the tractor is sort of at the midway point. Basically, in front of the tractor was the video 1 of this loop, first video, and the back side of the tractor was what we just finished. So that'll finish this up, and actually it'll finish up this portion of my woodlot, the woods behind my house, for the year. I have another section of roads that I plan to do next year, sort of similar thing. But I'm going to move up to my hardwood woodlot, which is about a couple miles from the house. I have started making roads there. I've had several videos of that. Haven't really touched it since winter, last winter, so what, 8 months ago, something like that. So we'll finish this up with a quick walk around the loop so you can get an idea of where I've been going and what the road looks like. And then we'll finish things up with perhaps a final review of the borrow pit for this year. This may be the last update of the borrow pit for this year. I've completed the work in basically this section of my property from here over that I wanted to for this year. Next year I have a series of roads that sort of go on that side that I'll plan to work on, but no more work this year. In fact, I think now I'm going to sort of transition, move at least my excavator up to the woodlot, which is about a 2-mile trek up my dead-end road to the woodlot. I've been working on roads there. There's a couple of videos, several videos of that on my channel. So I'm going to continue work on that. I haven't been up there really since early this spring. So it's been, what, 6 or 7 months since I've been up there. But I have a section of road that I cleared the wood from that I just need to take the excavator and, remove the rocks and stumps and level things out as best I can with the existing dirt. I don't anticipate, at least anytime soon, that I'm going to bring any of the material from here up to the woodlot. It would not be the easiest thing to do. But here's some leftover 2 to 6 inch crushed rock that I'm just gonna collect together and use in some spot areas here to sort of clean things up. Same thing with 1.5 inch crushed gravel that I used, that I didn't record, but I used on a small section of road. So here we are. We still have the 4 corners of this potential site for a 30 by 60 pole barn laid out. The white ones are the back of the pole barn or garage. The pink ones here would be the front, so the opening would face that way. Most of what I've used in this video came from this sort of last section that I removed, basically from where we are now to right there. So the only change I think from the last time we visited here as far as my plan was, I had planned to sort of, from where the edge of that is, I'm not going any further back that way because that's the tree line. My property line is probably 15 feet inside those young fir trees. My plan was to taper that down to the level here, which would be the access road, eventually coming from the town road that way, and then scooting along here, just sort of turning into a field road that heads into the main entrance to this portion of my property right there. But instead of that taper, since I have all these rocks that I've uncovered, I have all kinds of rocks actually that I've transported that away, I said, well, I might as well use them. So 2 objectives I can sort of accomplish with this is, 1, use a bunch of those rocks that I don't really have any other purpose for, and I can easily now get down to the grade that I want so that the road and the entrance to the pole barn is at level or slightly below the level of the pole barn, so I don't have any issue with water running in, rather than, you know, using 10 or 15 feet of this to sort of taper that down to make it mobile and not too steep. So I don't think that'll happen this year, just because I'm probably almost done using this material. But that rock wall will probably go from, say, right about here to maybe where that popple tree is. So I don't know, maybe 75 feet or so, maybe 100 feet, because then the road will start to go up there to meet the existing level since I'm past the entrance to the pole barn. Some big rocks here, sort of awaiting the decision. Like this one here is the tip of a rock. Who knows how big it is below the surface. It was not movable when I initially tried to grab it with my excavator, so I'll probably have to dig around it to pull it up. Those 2 humps there are similar. They're the tips of rocks of unknown size. Hopefully not too big. So that's where we stand. So I'm guessing from here on out I'll do a little bit more work on my woodlot, which is mostly hardwood, sort of a couple miles from the house. And then at some point transition to sort of the timber part of my channel, which is working on my property as far as timber stand improvement, logging, firewood, things like that. So I appreciate you tagging along for this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the work, which was the content of this video, and doing that and completing a big section of these problematic roads that I've had over the years. So it was fulfilling to do that. So thanks for tagging along. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stay tuned for future videos.